Welcome to Strawberry Audio. If you enjoy the story, please give it a like, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. The day I received my acceptance letter to Tsinghua University, my cousin knelt before me, clutching her stomach, telling me she was pregnant with my fiancé's child, begging me to let them go. I laughed so hard my jaw nearly dislocated. I'd been looking for a way to break off this engagement with this worthless man, and here was my perfect excuse delivered right to my door. Graduating from a prestigious university, inheriting a vast fortune, becoming a billionaire businesswoman, wouldn't that be wonderful? Men only slow down my money, making speed anyway. After dying from overwork in my previous life, I was reborn. As soon as I opened my eyes, I met someone's pitiful gaze. My cousin Jessica Miller was standing at my doorway in a simple white dress, pulling a large suitcase. This was about a month before the college entrance exams. Jessica, a third-year student, had moved in with us using the excuse that our house was close to school. "Jessica, why didn't you tell me you were coming? I would have picked you up." Dad pushed me aside and pulled Jessica into the house, then gave her my room. I rubbed my arm where Dad had pushed me, wincing at the pain, squinting my eyes. What had I done in my previous life? The painful memories immediately flooded back. Back then, my pride wouldn't let me give up my room. I fought with Dad and got slapped for it. This made Mom angry with Dad, and their already fragile relationship cracked even more. Not only that, but Jessica and my fiancé Michael Taylor gradually became intimate. I couldn't stand watching Jessica take everything from me, neglecting my studies, only thinking of ways to drive Jessica out of the house and separate her from my fiancé. Because of this, I, a student who had collected countless awards since childhood, failed to get into a good university in that college entrance exam, only managing to get into a community college. After that, my parents divorced. I went with Mom. Jessica plotted against me, saying I pushed her down the stairs, and Dad kicked me out of the house. She took the 10 million dowry from my father and married Michael, who had a matching social status. As for me, after graduating from college, I couldn't find a suitable job, had to work in a factory, and died from overwork. Now reborn, I voluntarily gave up my room and moved to the third-floor attic. Not out of fear, but because I wanted to seize the opportunity in this college entrance exam. My previous life's experience taught me that making myself strong was the most important thing. On the third floor, I was alone, extremely quiet. Every day I studied late into the night. I pretended not to know about every meeting between Jessica and Michael. Finally, when the college entrance exams ended, I achieved such high scores that both Tsinghua and Peking University competed to recruit me. Tsinghua was my choice. Only when I received the acceptance letter from Tsinghua University could I finally relax a bit. Opening the attic window, I breathed a sigh of relief. Now it was time to settle accounts between me, Jessica, Michael, and my so-called father. When I went downstairs, I happened to see Jessica leaning against Michael, smiling shyly. Seeing me, Michael immediately pushed Jessica away and walked toward me. "Sarah, you finally came down. You've been so busy studying lately, ignoring me. Now you must make it up to me," he said, reaching for my hand. I stepped back, keeping my distance from him. "But I see you already have someone else by your side." I gave a meaningful look toward Jessica. Michael was a bit flustered but quickly pretended to be calm. "Sarah, what are you thinking? I'm only close to Jessica because she's your cousin." His cold words made Jessica's face turn pale, while I smirked with interest. Michael and I had an arranged marriage since childhood. In my previous life, I always considered Michael my future husband, so when Jessica stole him away, I couldn't accept it. Like having something of mine stolen. In my previous life, at this point, because I tried so hard to prevent it, Michael and Jessica fell deeply in love. But now, perhaps without me as a catalyst, Michael was still secretly seeing Jessica behind my back. Cooperating with Michael in this act would certainly make Jessica uncomfortable, but it made me feel utterly disgusted. How could I quickly break off this engagement with Michael? After thinking for a moment, I had an idea. I looked at Michael with eyes full of affection. "Since we're going to get married eventually, why don't we just get married now?" "Get married?" Jessica was the first to exclaim in shock. "What's wrong, cousin? Don't you agree? Or do you want to marry Michael instead of me?" My words hit the mark, making Jessica's lips tremble, not knowing what to say. Michael's face also looked embarrassed. Clearly he hadn't enjoyed enough of his timing game yet. I took the opportunity to add fuel to the fire. "Michael, I got accepted to Tsinghua. If Mom knows this, she'll definitely be happy. I got accepted to Tsinghua." Michael's eyes lit up. Seeing me nod, he was overjoyed. "Wait a bit, I'll go tell Mom right away." The Taylor family made their fortune in coal mining. Though this industry isn't as prosperous now, their foundation is still solid, and they've invested in other sectors. Although they have money, no one in their family excels academically. The most educated person in their family is Michael. He's 3 years older than me but only graduated from high school, didn't go to college, and went straight to work. So the Taylor family is often mocked behind their backs as nouveau rich without upper class refinement. The more they lack something, the more they like to show it off. Mrs. Taylor brags everywhere about how smart I am. Now that I've been accepted to Tsinghua University, she'll definitely want me to marry into their family even sooner. Right after Michael left, Jessica couldn't hold back anymore and knelt before me, clutching her stomach. Sarah, I'm sorry. I'm pregnant with Michael's child. I know. After all, Michael and Jessica's raincoat was punctured by me beforehand. My firm words made Jessica stop crying. How did you know? I slightly curved my lips, said nothing more. Just turned and went upstairs. Looks like there'll be a big battle this afternoon. I need to rest and gather my strength. Bang bang bang. I was awakened by urgent knocking. Then my father's angry voice came from outside. Locking your door at home. All day either studying or sleeping. I'm raising you like raising a pig. Why don't you learn from your cousin? She gets up early every morning to cook. I frowned and went to open the door. Seeing my expressionless face, Dad's complaints stopped immediately. Then he showed anger. You brat, dare to look at your father with that expression. He raised his hand to hit me. I quickly went downstairs, making him miss. Downstairs, Michael's parents and he were chatting happily. When they saw me appear, their smiles grew even brighter. Beside them, Jessica was pouring tea, but her eyes were full of tears. Looks like the Taylor family still doesn't know about Jessica's pregnancy. Task. I thought Jessica had more guts than this. Looks like I'll have to help her out. Hello uncle, hello auntie. What hello? I walked up to Mrs. Taylor. She saw the Tsinghua acceptance letter in my hand, immediately took it to look, then passed it to her husband. Then she grabbed my hand. Sarah, our family is truly excellent. I love you to death. Right when my dad came down, she immediately said to him, my dear-in-law, Michael is over 20 and Sarah is grown up too. How about we hold the wedding first, then register the marriage later? What do you think? The Taylor family has more power than ours. Hearing Mrs. Taylor say this, Dad temporarily put aside his dissatisfaction with me, smiling and agreeing. Of course I agree. So when do you think would be appropriate? Watching Michael's parents and my dad start discussing our wedding date, I just found it ridiculous. My mom wasn't even home, yet they dared to openly ignore her. Looking at Jessica standing beside them, her eyes still glued to Michael. Normally, just one smile from Jessica would melt Michael, but now he sat properly, pretending not to see her signals. Faced with interests, their love seemed worthless. How about next month? Have the wedding before Sarah starts university. That works. Right when the three of them agreed, I spoke up. Uncle, I really want to marry Michael, but... I looked at Jessica with reproachful eyes, my voice full of grievance. But my cousin secretly seduced Michael and got pregnant with his child. My words shocked everyone in the room. Sarah, are you mistaken? She's your cousin, how could... I also want to think I'm mistaken, but she told me herself not long ago. At this moment my eyes had been properly treated with eye drops. Finally, tears rolled down. I lowered my head pretending to cry, but still peeked at Jessica through the corner of my eye. The Miller family has 3 siblings. Only my father went to university and married my mother. He relied on my mother's family influence to establish Miller Corporation. But the real power in the company belongs to my mother. My father is only the CEO in name. His 2 siblings, though they live better thanks to my father's secret help, still can't compare to our family. You are listening to a story on Strawberry Audio. Jessica has been jealous of me since childhood. I've already said this much. If Jessica doesn't know how to seize this opportunity to enter a wealthy family, even I would look down on her. Fortunately, she didn't disappoint me this time. Being stared at by everyone, Jessica knelt before Michael's parents. Uncle, auntie, Michael and I truly love each other. Michael's parents hadn't reacted yet when Michael immediately stood up. I always use protection, how could you be pregnant? Just one sentence confirmed everything. Michael, I don't know why either. Didn't you once say you don't like Sarah at all, that she's rigid and boring, that you'd eventually break off the engagement to be with me? Why are you saying this? Shut up. The anger rose in Michael as he slapped Jessica hard. Right after that, Michael's father kicked him in the stomach. You bastard, you've completely disgraced the Taylor family. Why are you hitting our son? Mrs. Taylor was indignant. I think it's clearly that vixen Jessica who seduced our son. If you're going to hit someone, hit her. Mrs. Taylor grabbed Jessica's hair. My father quickly tried to intervene. Mrs. Taylor was so angry she scratched my father's face. My father stepped back, so Jessica was pinned to the ground by Mrs. Taylor, beaten without being able to dodge. Jessica suddenly clutched her stomach, weakly crying out, "My baby, my child." a dark red stream of blood flowed from between Jessica's legs onto the floor. Afraid of being charged with murder, Mrs. Taylor quickly stopped and called an ambulance. Half an hour later, Jessica was carried into the ambulance. My father, the Taylors, and Michael hurriedly followed. I sat on the living room sofa, watching their figures disappear through the door, a cold smile appearing on my lips. At that moment, a deep gaze swept over me. It was my father. He turned back and accidentally caught the smile on my face. I reflexively withdrew my smile but quickly realized I was no longer the weak person he could oppress like in my previous life. I raised my head, showing a challenging smile toward him. Seeing my defiant gaze for the first time, he was furiously angry, seeming to want to come back and settle accounts with me. But the ambulance outside couldn't wait any longer. He had to get in and leave. Not long after the ambulance left, my mother returned home. Mom was wearing business attire, her hair in a tight bun. Though over 40 with some crow's feet, she still looked very elegant. Mom's hair was a bit messy, obviously having rushed back. "Sarah," Mrs. Taylor said, "something happened." "What exactly happened?" "Busy all day with work." Mom's voice was a bit cold but her eyes were full of urgent concern. In my previous life, I never noticed this. Back then, I never thought Mom worked so hard for me, only thinking she just buried herself in work to make money, not loving me at all. I was rebellious from childhood, loved to oppose Mom. Even when Mom left Miller Corporation and divorced Dad, her only condition was to take me with her. But because I couldn't bear to lose to Jessica, I stubbornly chose to stay with Dad. In the end, Mom was so disappointed she left empty-handed and went abroad. Thinking of this, my nose couldn't help but sting. "Mom." I threw myself into her arms, hugging Mom tightly. "You're finally back." In my previous life, Mom and I rarely had chances to be close. Since being reborn, we've been closer. However, compared to normal mother-daughter relationships, there's still some distance between us. Mom's body stiffened slightly, then gradually relaxed, clumsily patting my back. "Sarah, did something upset you?" "Yes." I nodded, telling her everything that happened today. "Michael and Jessica dared to have an affair behind your back. They even have a child. That's outrageous." Mom was angry. "I need to find them and settle this. Today the Taylor family and those relatives must give me an explanation." After speaking, Mom pulled me outside. She drove me straight to the hospital. When we arrived, Jessica was lying weakly on the hospital bed. The Taylors, Michael, and my father were all in the room. The other three looked terrible. Only my father was caring for Jessica. "Jessica, does it hurt? Are you hungry? If you're uncomfortable, just tell me." My father's voice became even gentler. "It's okay, just need to rest. Don't worry about other things." "Thank you, Uncle." My mother couldn't stand it anymore, pushing open the door and sarcastically saying, "You're so attentive to Sarah. Those who don't know would think Jessica isn't your niece but your own daughter." My mother was telepathic with me, saying everything I wanted to say. Sure enough, Dad also burst into anger. He was incompetent in his career but best at getting angry with my mother. "Jennifer, what nonsense are you spouting?" I'd seen my parents like this countless times, only this time I caught a guilty look on his face that I'd never seen before. I looked at my father, then at Jessica on the bed. A bold thought flashed through my mind. Nonsense. Jessica dared to steal Sarah's fiancé, did such shameless things, and you're still protecting her. Do you even care about us mother and daughter? Jessica is young and doesn't understand. Besides, she's not an outsider, she's my niece. Seeing the two about to explode into a big fight, I quickly pulled Mom's hand. "Mom." Mom came to her senses, took a deep breath, temporarily suppressing her anger toward Dad, and turned to look at the Taylors. The Taylors, who had been watching the drama, immediately tensed up. "In-laws, about this." "Don't call me in-law. If your son has no shame, consider this engagement cancelled." The Taylors hadn't reacted yet when my father hastily spoke up. "Canceling would be such a waste. Why not let Jessica replace Sarah in marrying Michael?" "No way." Mrs. Taylor glared. "Sarah got into Singwa. What about Jessica? She goes to some no-name university and comes from the countryside. Our Taylor family doesn't need such a daughter-in-law. I think we should just make Jessica abort the baby and go back to the countryside. Let's pretend nothing happened. We can't let a cheap woman like her affect the harmony between our families, right, in-law?" Mrs. Taylor looked at my mother. Mom glanced at my father's cold face, gently patted my hand to comfort me, then calmly replied, "That could work too." Seeing my mother nod, Mrs. Taylor breathed a sigh of relief. "Then I'll have the doctor prepare for the abortion surgery." After speaking, Mrs. Taylor immediately went to make arrangements. The person on the bed, whose voice was still weak, suddenly spoke fluently and jumped off the bed, tightly hugging Michael's legs. "Michael, are you really so heartless to me?" she cried like rain. Michael looked embarrassed. Seeing this, Mrs. Taylor got angry. "Vixen, don't touch my son." She tried to pull Jessica away, but at that moment two figures rushed in. Who dares bully my daughter? I'll fight them. The ones rushing in were Jessica's parents. Obviously, they had just received the news. Seeing Jessica being bullied, they immediately rushed over, pushed Mrs. Taylor away, and started beating the Taylors. Mr. Taylor also jumped into the melee. Jessica's parents, being farmers used to physical work, were healthy and strong. The Taylors were no match for them. Seeing his parents being beaten and crying out, Michael also jumped into the fight. 6 people rolled around in a heap on the floor. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. My laughter attracted Dad's attention. He strode toward me angrily. Sarah Miller, you're too much. If it weren't for you, how would things have turned out like this? Because of me. How? A cold smile appeared on my lips. I stared at him. What does it have to do with me? Isn't it because Jessica has no shame? Shut up. I won't. Could it really be like Mom said? Jessica isn't your niece but your own daughter. That's why. Before I could finish, Dad's face turned ashen with anger. Nonsense. Today I must teach you a lesson. He raised his hand to hit me. Mom reflexively shielded me behind her. Don't you dare. I don't dare. Jennifer, if you dare stop me, do you believe I'll hit you too? Hafe. A clear, mocking voice came from outside the hospital room door. How ridiculous. This is the first time I've seen a father who doesn't want his child to succeed. I turned around and saw a face both strange and familiar. His features were sharp and clear, extremely handsome. The bruise at the corner of his eye and blood on his lips didn't diminish his handsomeness at all. Instead, they added a bewitching charm. Only his eyes showed obvious ferocity, full of murderous intent. It was my high school classmate, Alex Park. After graduating high school, I didn't see many old classmates again. The reason he felt familiar was because I'd met him once before my rebirth. At that time, I was leaving work as usual when 2 men blocked my way home. Alex drove up in a luxury car, just honked once, and those 2 ran away in fear. I thanked him. He just said, "No need to thank an old classmate." Only then did I dig up the few scattered memories of Alex Park from deep in my mind, feeling both grateful and ashamed. My former classmate was now living so well, while I, pulling back from distant thoughts, I looked at the face before me. Now he still didn't have the composed air from when I met him in my previous life, looking rather immature but still very handsome. Who the hell are you? A brat like you dares to interfere in my family matters. Today I'll teach you a lesson too. My dad, having his lack of love for his daughter pointed out by an outsider, couldn't save face with his strong pride. He rolled up his sleeves, preparing to hit me. Mom stood in front to shield me, but his hand still didn't stop. He really intended to hit even my mother. I quickly reached out to stop Dad, but another hand was faster, firmly gripping my father's arm. It was Alex Park. Dad was furious and wanted to teach Alex a lesson too, but his arm was held tightly by Alex, completely unable to move. The two struggled. Alex remained relaxed while Dad's face turned purple, angry to the point of organ failure. Finally, medical staff noticed the commotion and rushed into the room to intervene. Dad took the opportunity to withdraw his hand, turning toward Jessica. I turned around to thank Alex, but discovered he had already turned and left, his slender figure disappearing at the end of the long hallway, surrounded by loneliness. Half an hour later, under the hospital staff's intervention, everyone in the room reluctantly quieted down. Except for my dad, who outwardly cared for Jessica but was actually standing outside of it all. Everyone else had bruised faces and disheveled appearances, struggling terribly. The Taylor family held their heads high arrogantly, unable to stand Jessica's parents, while Jessica's parents hung their heads low, worried. Their biggest dream was for Jessica to marry into a wealthy family, but just now they had even beaten down that wealthy family terribly. The baby in Jessica's belly must be aborted. Mr. Taylor spoke angrily. Mrs. Taylor agreed. I'd rather die than let Jessica step foot in our house. How can you do this? Jessica's father was dissatisfied. Your son got our Jessica pregnant. If you won't take responsibility, we'll make a scene at your company entrance and let everyone judge. Jessica's father's words made the Taylors' faces turn ugly. Ha, one life worth $500. You want to buy a life. Jessica's mother wanted to object, but Mr. Taylor cut her off. $500. At those words David Miller and Lisa immediately nodded, settling on the price. On the hospital bed, Jessica immediately fainted from crying. How pitiful. Even if she fainted, she couldn't escape the fate of going to the operating table. After dealing with the Miller family, the Taylors tiredly turned to my mother-in-law. After Jessica's pregnancy is terminated, let Michael and Sarah get married, okay? Mom's eyes flashed. That depends on Michael's behavior. Rest assured, if Michael dares to fool around again in the future, I'll break his legs. Mrs. Taylor pulled Michael over. Michael casually nodded his promise. His eyes kept glancing toward Jessica being wheeled away. Without saying much more to Mrs. Taylor, Mom led me away from there. In the car, Mom drove while asking me, "What do you think about marrying Michael? Trash like him. I wouldn't want him even if he begged. Just thinking about Michael makes me feel disgusted and nauseous. Betrayal, weakness, irresponsibility, he doesn't have a single good quality. In my previous life, I was blind, fighting with Jessica over that pile of crap." My words seemed to dissolve some of the gloom in Mom's eyes. "So what do you want to do now?" "I want to break off the engagement with Michael. Dragging it out longer might deepen the hurt between Michael and Jessica, but just thinking about having the title of Michael's fiancé makes me sick." I shared my concerns with Mom. Mom smiled to comfort me. "Don't worry, just let Mom handle it." When we got home, Mom immediately called Michael's mother-in-law. "Has the baby in Jessica's belly been aborted yet?" "Not yet. The doctor said we need to wait for her to wake up and check her physical condition before surgery. I think that little vixen is clearly faking unconsciousness." "Right. An opportunist who dares to seduce her cousin's boyfriend. How could she be good? In-law, you mustn't go soft at the crucial moment. Michael can't have children. In the future, when Michael and Sarah marry, having 8 or 10 children won't be a problem." After ending the call with Michael's mother, Mom turned to look at me. Before I could ask, she explained the plan. "Michael is the tailor's only son. His parents worked very hard to have this child. I heard his father has problems, so his mother might not let Jessica have the surgery because of succession issues." My eyes lit up. Mom laughed and gently touched my nose. "Too smart. This way, the Taylor family won't have face to cling to us anymore. As for Jessica, even if she has the child, the Taylors won't care about her." Hearing Mom say this, I looked at her admiringly. "Mom, you're amazing." Mom smiled and gently hugged me, softly stroking my hair. "My daughter won't be bullied by anyone." Feeling Mom's warm embrace, I couldn't help but get teary-eyed. In my previous life, Mom had also said this sentence, and how did I respond? I had said, "If you really don't want me to be bullied, you should help me win back Michael." "But Mom, Sarah, Michael isn't worth you doing this." "Whether he's worth it or not, I still like him." I was like someone possessed, my only desire being to separate Jessica and Michael. Mom couldn't argue with me and had to steel herself to find the Taylors, but was looked down upon by them. Of course, after Michael treated me that way, and I still wouldn't let go. With a daughter like me, wouldn't my mother also be looked down upon by others? "Sarah, what's wrong?" Sensing my emotional change, Mom asked worriedly. I buried my face in Mom's embrace, my voice dropping. "Mom, I feel Dad doesn't deserve to be my father. Just like before, Dad wasn't close to me, and there was always distance between Dad and Mom. Usually, Mom was busy with work while Dad spent her money showing off everywhere. Now thinking back, their relationship had problems long ago. Mom had been enduring for my sake, but now I could see clearly Dad didn't care about me, didn't love me. I didn't need him. I hoped Mom could divorce him. But Mom didn't do that. She just hugged me tightly. After a long time, she sighed. "Even though it's a bit disappointing, I can still understand." After all, Mom had waited until a year later in my previous life before proposing divorce to Dad. At that time, I had been tormented by Michael, Jessica, and Dad until my spirit collapsed. Mom was completely disappointed in Dad then and wanted to take me away. But now, besides siding with Jessica, Dad seemed not to have done anything unforgivable yet. Though I really wanted to leave him soon, I knew some things couldn't be rushed. In the afternoon, Mom went out to prepare for my college celebration party. I called all the servants in the villa over and instructed them to throw out all of Jessica's belongings. Yes. Previously, because of studying, I temporarily endured and let Jessica stay for a while. But from now on, I won't give anyone a chance to hurt me again. After Jessica's belongings were thrown out and the servants had thoroughly cleaned my room, I moved back from the attic. That evening, Mom had just arrived home when Dad came back right after. Seeing us, his attitude was no longer arrogant. Instead, he seemed somewhat cowardly. He walked up to Mom and took her hand. "What happened at the hospital this morning was because I was too angry. Don't be mad, okay?" Normally, even knowing he was wrong, Dad would never apologize. He definitely had ulterior motives. Mom pulled her hand back, her expression cold. "Looking at you like this, the baby in Jessica's belly still hasn't been aborted, right?" Being directly exposed, Dad was a bit flustered. Michael was tested, weak sperm. He might have difficulty having children in the future. "This is unavoidable." "So what do you mean?" Mom looked straight at him. Faced with Mom's calmness, the guilt in Dad's heart turned to anger. "It's because Sarah doesn't work hard enough, can't win Michael's affection. If Jessica is already pregnant with his child, might as well let her marry Michael." Mom, being a tough person, immediately changed expression. "I don't need this marriage." "But what do you mean? Is Sarah not lovable in your eyes? Only Jessica is lovable, right?" "That's not it. Dad slammed the table and stood up, pointing at me. Look at her, acting like I owe her millions. How is that lovable? How can she compare to Jessica? That girl knows how to make tea, knows how to take care of people, and she knows. Shut up. Mom's chest heaved with anger. Afraid it would affect Mom's health, I quickly went to help her breathe. Mom, don't be angry anymore. If Dad doesn't love me, so be it. I still have you. Understanding my concern, Mom took a deep breath, trying to control her anger. Ignoring Robert, she took my hand and went upstairs together. Once there, Mom looked at me and said, "Your father." Mom wanted to say something but couldn't get the words out. I held Mom's hand tightly. Mom, in my heart, I don't have a father. From childhood to now, Dad has never cared for me, never taken care of me, never attended my parent-teacher conferences. In all big and small matters in my life, Dad never participated. He doesn't even have any love for me, only disgust. But he treats Jessica differently. In front of Jessica, he truly acts like a father. Sometimes I even think. Mentioning the suspicion in my heart, I gritted my teeth and continued. I think Jessica is Dad's real daughter, and I'm just an obstacle who stole his daughter's position. Sarah. Hearing me say this, Mom exclaimed in panic. I can guarantee you are your father's daughter. As for Jessica, your father is selfish. He's always only cared about supporting his two brothers. Deep down, he thinks he and his brothers are the real family, while I'm the outsider. So he puts you in the same position as me, treating you this way. Jessica is definitely not his child. Don't worry. Without your father's love, I'll love you twice as much. Hearing this, I nodded, no longer dwelling on this issue, and changed the subject. Dad wants Jessica to marry Michael. Will the Taylor family agree to accept her because she's pregnant? If that's the case, it would be too easy for Jessica. Of course not. Mom understood the Taylor family's character very well. They're probably thinking of letting Jessica secretly give birth, then have you and Michael raise the baby. They'll ask your father to be the middleman. But how could your father let his precious niece suffer such injustice? So he came back to ask me to persuade the Taylors to let Jessica join their family. I won't be that stupid. After arguing with your father like that, he probably can't bring himself to ask for help anymore. Hearing Mom say this, I couldn't help but give her a thumbs up. Mom, you're amazing. Of course, Mom smiled proudly. Your graduation party will be held in 3 days. I'll send you the hotel address on WeChat. These few days, just relax and invite your friends. Leave everything else to Mom. On the day of your graduation party, I'll publicly announce the cancellation of your engagement with Michael. Yes. Back in my room, I was still a bit worried. Mom's abilities far exceeded what I imagined. Being so smart, she could certainly confirm Jessica wasn't Dad's child. Had I guessed wrong about this? I shook my head, temporarily putting aside this thought. Taking out my phone, I sent invitations to several close friends for the graduation party. Finally, I thought of Alex Park. He was my classmate, but in high school, I didn't have much impression of him. I remember he always sat in the last row, always sleeping, or playing with his phone in class. Teachers didn't bother with him either. Alex frequently got into fights, could count on one hand the times he wasn't called to bring his parents. He was a typical rebellious student. But because he was handsome, his desk drawer was always full of love letters. Only those letters were never opened, periodically cleaned out and thrown in the recycling bin. My interaction with Alex was almost zero, but in both lives, he had helped me twice. After hesitating for a while, I still sent Alex a message. Since we weren't very close, I used rather polite language. My graduation party is in 3 days. Are you free? Unexpectedly, he replied very quickly with just one word, yes. My close friends would all attend graduation parties in the coming days, whether they did well on exams or not. That day, after I finished preparing to go out, my father was sitting on the sofa, observing me from head to toe with a somewhat cold gaze. Sarah, what is it? I replied in an equally cold tone. Dad frowned, dissatisfied, and spoke up. Your cousin is still in the hospital recuperating. How can you have the mood to go out and have fun? Is that so? Then according to Dad, she's lying in the hospital bed while you're sitting at home drinking tea. Don't you think you should be at the hospital watching over her? My answer without any politeness made his face turn ugly. Isn't it because I stayed up late last night that I'm too tired to bear it today? I was in a hurry to go out and didn't want to waste time arguing with him. When I reached the door, Dad spoke up again. Remember to visit your cousin. Asking me to visit Jessica was definitely fake. Wanting to give Jessica a chance to brainwash me was real. I acted like I didn't hear him and walked out. After attending the graduation party with friends, on the way back, I asked the driver to stop by the hospital. At the hospital, I saw Jessica sitting on the bed eating fruit that David and Lisa were feeding her. Our Jessica is really capable. Sooner or later, she'll marry into a wealthy family. That Sarah girl, what use is studying well? She can't even keep a man. When marrying Michael, remember to ask your uncle for more dowry. The three of them conspired together. I pushed the door open just in time. But Auntie Taylor just called me, saying Michael absolutely won't marry Jessica. After she gives birth, they'll send her back to the countryside. My words immediately changed the expressions of the three people in the room. Sarah, things have come to this point. Even if I marry Michael, I can only have his body, never his heart. The smugness on Lisa's face completely disappeared, replaced by a painful expression. Sarah, I've been blessed by heaven since childhood, lacking nothing. But Jessica is different. Could you not fight with her over Michael? After Lisa finished, Jessica immediately burst into tears. Sarah, for the sake of me being your sister, can you forgive me? David's attitude remained unchanged. Sarah, even if you don't agree to cancel the engagement with Michael, your father will find a way to marry Jessica to Michael. If you don't let go, you'll be the only one who loses face later. All three people in this family, taking turns using both soft and hard tactics. If it were the previous life's me, that kind and weak person, I might have felt it was my own fault. Should I forgive you then? The shameless person who seduced my fiancé and got pregnant with his child is Jessica. How unfortunate Jessica must be to have anything to do with you people. Let me tell you, Jessica, no matter what schemes you use, I won't cancel my marriage arrangement with Michael. Just wait, eventually, the child will call me mother, and you'll never be able to appear in public. At most, the child can only call Jessica aunt. After hearing this, the three people in the room were too angry to speak. At that moment, a servant bringing food accidentally dropped and broke a bowl. Sorry, I was clumsy. She quickly bent down to pick up the fragments, unfortunately cutting her hand. Unable to just stand and watch, I stepped forward. Let me pick them up. I knelt down to help her collect the broken pieces. After picking them up, I stood up to throw them in the trash. Looking up, my gaze accidentally stopped on the servant's face, and I couldn't look away. So similar, very similar to Jessica. The suspicions I had dismissed earlier surfaced again. When she noticed me staring at her face, the servant quickly lowered her head and said, "Thank you. No problem." I patted her shoulder, conveniently pulling a strand of hair. Just as I walked out of the hospital room door, I saw Michael. He looked very excited. Sarah, you're amazing. You don't mind Jessica giving birth to my child and are willing to be the child's mother. Don't worry, I'll definitely treat you well in the future. His eyes looking at me were full of affection. It seemed he had heard what I said in the hospital room. I really wanted to go crazy. In my previous life, was I blind to feel regret when such a person was stolen by Jessica? What about Jessica? I deliberately spoke loudly. Wait for her to give birth, give her some money and that's it. Michael said heartlessly. In the room, hearing Michael's words, once again there was shock. Jessica fainted again. Whether she fainted for real or fake, I didn't care. My face remained unchanged looking at Michael. What I just said was just to deliberately anger Jessica. From the moment you and Jessica had an affair, we had nothing to do with each other anymore. Go home and tell your parents not to go around saying I'm your future daughter-in-law. Being associated with people like you is truly shameful. After speaking, I ignored Michael's reaction and turned to leave. The day before the graduation party, Mom and I finished choosing formal wear and returned home, only to find Jessica and her parents at our house. All three of them were lying on the sofa, eating sunflower seeds while watching TV. In the villa, sunflower seed shells and spilled tea were scattered everywhere, extremely messy. What are you doing here? I looked at them. David leaned back on the sofa. Sarah, what kind of talk is that? We're family. Jessica just got out of the hospital and needs a quiet environment to recuperate. If not here, then where? At this time, servants were bringing things down from upstairs. Looking closely, it was stuff from my room. Noticing my attention, Jessica spoke innocently. Sarah, Uncle said I need a good environment to recuperate, so could you please move to the attic or guest room? Too outrageous. They occupied my room without even notifying me. I was furiously angry and about to argue when my mother spoke first. Security, throw this whole family out. How dare you? Do you know who I am? I'm the owner of this villa. If you dare touch us, I'll fire you all. David said angrily. However, the security guards didn't even look at them. After all, this villa was left to my mother by my grandparents. The three were thrown outside, sitting at the villa entrance cursing non-stop. I said calmly, keep making noise and I'll call the police. I took out my phone and dialed. The three immediately fell silent. They slowly stood up, took their few belongings and left. Jessica. I called Jessica back. What else do you want? At this moment, Jessica no longer pretended. She held her stomach, her eyes full of defensiveness and resentment looking at me. Don't dream of harming my child. Ha! I laughed coldly. Just relying on the child won't get you into the Taylor family's door. The Taylor family values face most. Only when everyone knows about you carrying Michael's child can the Taylors officially let you in their door. You're so kind. Jessica looked at me, her face full of emotion. She wasn't completely brainless and quickly understood. Sarah Miller, you did it on purpose. You want the Taylor family to be disgraced too. That's right, I did it on purpose. The opportunity I'm giving you, take it or leave it. Not long after the Miller family left, my father returned home. In the living room, he and my mother had an unprecedented huge fight. Because of me, because of Jessica. The fight started with Jessica seducing Michael, then spread to many other issues. My father felt that over the years, Mom always shielded me to the point of ignoring family feelings. Meanwhile, Mom, besides seeing me being bullied, also had her own suffering about Dad being cold to her for many years. Normally, my mother was always very elegant, but now she couldn't control her emotions and raised her voice. Robert Miller, you're truly despicable, truly useless. You only know how to pursue patriarchy. You can't protect your wife and child. You're conscienceless and blind. Jennifer Woods, do you want to die? Dad angrily raised his hand to hit Mom. Of course, his hand couldn't hit her. Just as he raised it in the air, security had already stopped him. Beat Robert for me. The harder you beat him, the bigger the reward. Robert's miserable cries echoed in the living room. I had wanted to do this for a long time. In my previous life, although I only graduated from community college, if I tried hard I could have lived well. But Robert, Jessica, and Michael, no matter what job I found, they would use their power to sabotage my work. My miserable life in the previous life, though partly due to my own blindness, from beginning to end I never did anything bad. It was these people who step by step pushed me to a dead end. Right after being reborn, I wanted to kill Robert, but when it came to actually doing it, I didn't feel as satisfied as I imagined. Because my mother, she looked at me painfully. Mom, I walked over and took Mom's hand, gently calling, Mom, it's okay. She tried hard to smile. When Robert was beaten until he couldn't make a sound anymore, Mom turned to tell the security guards to stop. Though unwilling, I ultimately didn't do anything. Mom patted my hand to comfort me. Tomorrow is your college celebration party. If we make too much of a scene about this, it won't look good. So I said nothing more. Robert was taken to the hospital. There were Mom's people watching at the hospital entrance. That night, Mom's room light stayed on. Worried, I went to her door and saw her putting away photos taken with Dad. Mom looked at the photos, paused to reminisce a bit, then suddenly tore them up. I only saw the bad things about Dad, but never knew what the two of them had been through. Sensing me coming, she called me over. I walked over and hugged Mom. Mom's voice came from above my head. Back when I was going to marry your father, your grandparents disagreed, saying he had poor background and poor ability. I was deceived by his sweet words and was determined to marry him. Looking back now, it seems I really chose wrong. Mom, everyone makes some wrong choices in life, as long as we recognize them in time and correct them. Moreover, I looked up at Mom. If Mom hadn't married Dad, maybe you wouldn't have such an excellent daughter like me. I joked, making Mom laugh despite herself. Mom looked at me and seriously asked, Sarah, if your father and I divorce, can you accept it? Yes, I'll stay with Mom. Definitely. This time I answered without any hesitation. Perhaps because my answer gave Mom strength, confidence returned to her face. After your celebration party ends tomorrow, I'll discuss divorce with him. Yes. I hugged Mom and dozed off together. When she was breathing steadily, I got up. I found a short hair of Dad's on the pillow and took it out of the room. The next morning, I made a special trip out to get Jessica's hair from the hospital, then took Jessica's hair, Dad's hair, and the servant's hair for DNA testing. Returning home, Mom and I went to the hotel together. Near noon, guests arrived one by one. My father, who was supposed to be recuperating in the hospital, forced himself to attend my celebration party. I was a bit worried Dad would cause trouble here, but Mom said he cared too much about face, so I relaxed. As Mom predicted, Dad normally didn't care about me, but today his face was all smiles. The smile was so big that even the bandages on his face couldn't hide it. My daughter is so excellent. Of course, she's my daughter. Someone saw the injuries on his face and asked worriedly, what happened? How did you get hurt so badly? Dad was laughing heartily, but his eyes were a bit dark as he answered. Haha, my daughter got into Singwa. I was so happy I drank too much and fell like this. Hearing this, Mom and I looked at each other. We both couldn't help but laugh. I have to say, he really knew how to find excuses for himself. This lying skill could really be put to better use. Guests came and went continuously. Finally, under Mom's expectant gaze, my grandparents arrived. Because Mom insisted on marrying my father, my grandparents were extremely angry. Over the years, although they secretly helped mom with work, visits were almost non-existent. Every time mom visited them, they gave her the cold shoulder. Only when facing me did they become happy again. But actually I knew they were just using me to care about mom. They loved me because they loved mom. Mom, Dad, you finally came. Mom breathed a sigh of relief. My grandparents' faces were full of pride. If we weren't afraid Sarah's college party would have regrets, we wouldn't come to your place. Yes, let me show you in. Mom quickly helped my grandparents. My school friends had arrived. The Taylor family was also complete. The Jessica Miller family too. It was almost noon and most guests had arrived, but I still hadn't seen Alex Park. Only now did I feel I'd been a bit hasty. I didn't know how Alex did academically or what school he got into, yet I thoughtlessly invited him. Just as I was thinking, a familiar voice sounded above my head. Excuse me, where can I sit? I looked up and met Alex Park's beautiful eyes. I'll show you. The smile on my face unconsciously appeared. I led Alex to the table with old classmates. Seeing Alex, several girls who had been chatting happily suddenly blushed and fell silent. Sarah, you're really amazing. You've never been close to anyone, yet you managed to invite the campus heartthrob here. Hearing this, I just smiled without saying anything. Miller Corporation wasn't small. Most people attending my college party were business partners. When I went with my parents to toast each person, at the Taylor family's table, someone wondered why they were sitting with us. Mom smiled and said, "It's like this, Sarah and Michael have cancelled their engagement. After all, the engagement was just a joke from many years ago, it can't be taken seriously." Those present were all perceptive people. No one continued asking. Instead, the Taylors looked a bit unhappy. However, they also restrained themselves from showing anything. Mom wanted to leave the Taylors some face, but I didn't. Having done shameless things and still wanting to save face, where in the world is there such a good thing? I looked toward Jessica. She was holding her stomach, looking conflicted, as if debating whether to expose that she was pregnant with Michael's child. Finally, I walked toward Michael. Uninvited guests were watching. Halfway there, I suddenly tripped on something, my body losing balance and lurching forward. In front of me was Jessica. Seeing I was about to crash into Jessica, suddenly there was a pulling force at my waist. It was Alex Park. He held my waist. "Thank you." I stood straight in Alex's arms. "Thank you." Jessica panicked and immediately got angry. She held her stomach and stood up from her chair, pointing at me and accusing, "Sarah Miller, you did it on purpose. You can't stand that I'm pregnant with Michael's child, and want to take the opportunity to kill my baby." The moment Jessica spoke, the whole room was in uproar. Everyone immediately understood. The reason I cancelled my engagement with Michael was because he had cheated with my cousin, and even had a child with her. Those present all valued face. Many of them looked at the Taylor family with contempt. The Taylors valued face highly. Mrs. Taylor immediately denied it. "Jessica, what are you saying? Our Michael isn't someone just anyone can seduce." Having come this far, Jessica broke through all hesitation. "I have Michael's child in my belly. Everyone knows. If you really won't acknowledge it, after the baby is born we can do a DNA test." "You slut, I'll tear your mouth apart." Seeing the Taylor family and Miller family about to fight again, my mother immediately had security escort both families out. The atmosphere in the room became quiet again. Everyone looked at me with sympathetic eyes. Of course those people didn't include my father. His face was deathly pale, his eyes looking like he wanted to eat me alive. The college party ended. Back home, Dad immediately exploded. "You mother and daughter, how can you be so vicious? Jessica is pregnant with Michael's child and not acknowledged by the Taylors. She's already pitiful enough. Why do you have to push the child to death? Isn't it what she deserves? Sarah Miller, don't think I won't dare teach you a lesson." Dad stepped forward. Security immediately blocked in front of me. "If you don't want to be hospitalized again, go ahead and try. I knew you definitely weren't good. You're enough." Mom couldn't stand it anymore, cutting off his words. "Robert, let's divorce." "Divorce? Jennifer, are you joking?" Dad's voice was full of shock and contempt. Obviously in his perception, no matter how he treated us mother and daughter, Mom would never divorce. Mom was firm. After a while, Dad finally realized the truth and laughed coldly. "Divorce then? Split the assets 50-50. Why should I split 50-50 with you? Besides playing around, what have you contributed to this family?" I said indignantly. Mom continued, "Right, I'll have the lawyer prepare the contract. Go ahead." Dad went upstairs. Mom looked at me comfortingly. "Sarah, if we've decided to divorce, let's be decisive and quick. I can make money again. After all, he is your father. Giving him some money is fine." She had a point. I didn't object for now. Seeing Mom was okay, I asked her to drive me out to meet friends. Actually, I went to the hospital. I hoped my suspicion was wrong. If it was wrong, to avoid mom being too heartbroken, I could let Robert get some assets. At the hospital, I smoothly got the test results. When I opened the test report and looked at the results, I was so angry I could barely breathe. I was right. Jessica really was Robert and the servant's illegitimate daughter. I immediately took the test results back to show mom. At first, she was sad about the decades-long marriage, but when she discovered dad had cheated and had an illegitimate daughter 3 years older than me, she couldn't control her anger. Despite being angry, mom maintained her rationality. She called my grandparents to inform them of this. My grandparents and my 3 uncles came. They were furious. Dad was dragged from his bed by my 3 uncles and beaten nearly to death. His body already had injuries, and he was beaten until he could barely breathe. Then my eldest uncle placed a divorce contract in front of him, demanding he sign. Dad looked at it and saw it stated he would leave with nothing. Without hesitation, he immediately refused. My eldest uncle snorted coldly. "Robert, have you thought carefully? If you don't sign, I'll sue you for adultery and send you to jail. Not only that, every time I see anyone from the Miller family, I'll beat them. Don't dream of having any chance for advancement." Knowing Jessica's matter was exposed, Dad's face turned ashen. Finally, he agreed to sign the contract. At that moment, my parents officially divorced. From now on, he was no longer my father. Robert, like a pile of garbage, struggled to be thrown out of the villa. If it weren't for thinking of Sarah, I would definitely send him to jail. My uncles were so angry they couldn't control themselves. Mom couldn't continue being sad. She turned to comfort my grandparents and uncles. In the end, my grandparents and uncles, pitying us mother and daughter, insisted on taking us home to stay for a while. At my grandparents' house, I felt unprecedented familial warmth. It was so warm I didn't want to return to that house anymore. Mom also felt that villa was unlucky and sold it at below market price. There was more than a month until Tsinghua University's enrollment day. Mom asked me, "What are your plans next?" "Mom, I want to intern at the company." After dealing with the garbage, making money was the next important thing. I wanted to learn company management early to inherit the family fortune. Hearing my answer, Mom smiled. Perfect, I had the same plan. Mom took me shopping for several business outfits. When wearing business attire with my hair up, looking in the mirror, I saw myself as confident and proud, no longer weak like before. The next day, I went to the company with Mom. I witnessed Mom ordering HR to transfer all the people Robert had brought into the company. Not long after, Mom's phone kept ringing. "Sister-in-law, we're family after all. Robert's wrongdoings aren't related to me." "Sister-in-law, I've already cut ties with Robert. Jobs aren't easy to find now. Could you please understand and not fire me?" Faced with interests, the sibling relationships Robert was proud of completely collapsed. Mom was too lazy to waste time and directly blocked all those people. She assigned me to a company employee. Every day I had to learn many things. While busy, news about the Taylor and Miller families reached my ears without missing anything. Not that I wanted to hear, but recently the Taylor family had so much drama that everyone knew. After Jessica publicly announced her pregnancy with Michael's child at my college celebration party, the Taylors were so angry they demanded Michael have no more contact with her. I don't know if Michael was sincere or if Jessica had tricks, but Michael still secretly continued seeing her. When Mrs. Taylor accidentally discovered this, she was so angry she had to be hospitalized. The Taylors, because of those two's bad behavior, lost several major cooperation contracts, suffering heavy losses. Looking at the company's stocks dropping daily, Mr. Taylor was disheveled. That's not all. It turned out Jessica didn't know she was an illegitimate child. When she heard the servant was her biological mother, she cursed Robert and her mother for being shameless. In her anger, Jessica decided to abort the baby. Without the baby, Jessica had no chance of getting the Taylor family's assets. Her status in the Miller family dropped, no longer arrogant. She began making peace with Robert. After all, Robert still had money. Robert quickly signed the divorce contract with my mother, because he was afraid of jail and afraid of my 3 uncles, but partly also because he had a considerable private fund. However, living hand-to-mouth couldn't be sustained. Under his younger brother's influence, Robert got into gambling. In just 1 month, he lost several million. With no money left, Robert was no longer respected by the Miller family, and was finally kicked out. According to neighbors near the villa, Robert came to the villa in a miserable state looking for Mom and me. Unfortunately, the house had changed owners long ago. He couldn't meet anyone. When hearing others talk about their miserable situations, I realized my heart had no fluctuation. We were already from 2 different worlds. Whether they lived well or not, I would still strive to become better. On Tsinghua enrollment day, at the school gate, Michael blocked me. "Sarah, Jessica and I have completely cut ties. We grew up together. Please forgive me just this once, okay? How ridiculous. I actually noticed some sincerity in Michael's eyes. Some people easily get things but don't know how to cherish them, while things they can't have, they desperately desire every night. Sorry, I can't. The more I looked at Michael, the more I felt time passing was truly wasted. I walked around him into the school gate. A familiar figure appeared before my eyes. It was Alex Park. He was also holding an acceptance notice, seemingly waiting for me. Seeing me, he came over and invited me to register together. Sure, I nodded and walked alongside Alex. The past cannot return. The future comes without hesitation. In the end, I will live the way I want.